What's the difference between expedited removal, regular removal orders, voluntary returns, and voluntary departures? Let me explain. Expedited removal is essentially a removal from the United States where you are not allowed to defend your case in front of a judge. This typically happens at the border. People who are detained at the border and they are returned, that's an expedited removal. They don't go in front of a judge. Or if you're within the United States and you've been here for less than 2 years, you entered without inspection, or you entered with some type of parole, you're detained by ICE. You are not necessarily afforded the right to defend your case in front of a judge, and you could be expeditiously removed. That's an expedited removal order. Also, if you're in the U.S. and you have a prior removal order, you could be detained by ICE and expeditiously removed. Okay, so that's an expedited removal. You don't go in front of the judge. Generally happens at the border, or you've been here less than 2 years. Now, a regular removal is the opposite. You do appear in front of a judge. You appear in front of an immigration judge in EOIR proceedings. You have an opportunity to defend your deportation, and for whatever reason, you are unable to defend your deportation, you get a removal order. That is regular old removal or deportation. Now, voluntary return and voluntary departure often get confused as well. A voluntary departure is something that you would actually seek if you were in removal proceedings. This is ordered and granted by a judge. You actually have to present things to a court, like a file that you are haven't violated, criminal laws, or you've essentially been a good person. You have a passport, and you're going to return to your home country, within a certain period, but on your own terms, and you're able to arrange your affairs. So you ask the judge for voluntary departure if you are in a deportation case and you don't think you're going to be able to defend it. The benefit of this is that in terms of later seeking immigration benefits, if you comply with that voluntary departure order, you are going to be in a better position later on if somebody wants to petition for you to come back to the United States versus if you have a regular removal order. Now, if you ask for voluntary departure, you're granted voluntary departure by a judge and then you don't leave, it will be converted to a removal order. Finally, voluntary return. A voluntary return is generally, again, seen at the border. You are detained by CBP at the border, you enter without inspection, and they return you to your home country. You return voluntarily. And the difference between that and an expedited removal is that is not going to prejudice you as much, the voluntary return, as expedited removal order, especially if you later re-entered without inspection. If you re-entered without inspection after a voluntary return, oftentimes we're able to still seek immigration benefits. But if you entered without inspection after an expedited removal at the border, you are likely going to have a permanent bar. And then this self-deportation or auto-deportation doesn't exist, okay? If you're in the country and you leave, then you just leave, right? There's no formal term for it. It's not a self-deportation. However, if you're in removal proceedings in front of a judge and you decide to leave and you don't ask for that voluntary departure, you're not going to be given some benefit for just leaving. In fact, you're just going to have a removal order entered against you in absentia more than likely. So those are the differences. I hope I explained them and answered your questions. If you have more, leave them in my comments and I'll try to address them.